Valve doesn't have rules. They have patterns. And right now, everyone's staring at the same collections in the Armory, wondering which one's going to go out next. A lot of people will be wrong, because they're looking at the right data, but they're looking at it with the wrong model. Welcome back to the Armory Report. I'm your host, Mike Water9. And while we usually look at the Armory on a micro level, we're going to look at it today on a macro level, sort of analyze the grand scheme of things and the future of the Armory in general, make some predictions on what's going out and what's coming in. And I do think their wording and a lot of the signals that they hide in plain sight are actually good key insights to what we'll be getting in the future. So let's make some inferences and make sure those inferences are not going to have us holding bags for another 6 months. There's a variety of plays here. We've got some data-driven ones, some analysis, some speculation and theories, and we'll go over all of it in this video. First, let's lay the foundation. Valve has a criteria for discontinuing things. It is not completely static because I think they weigh between two key factors. One factor is going to be the length of time it's been in the Armory, and the other one is the relative popularity of it, right? They might see it out for another 6 months if it's only been in there for 6 months, but after that next 6 months, if it doesn't step up its game in terms of redemption and popularity within the community, then they'll take it out. They're a company. They're about their money. So it's pretty much the only perspective in which to think when trying to predict what they do next in the Armory. If a collection is underperforming and it's a year in, odds are it's going to be on the chopping block. Now there's this nice redemption graph that is on the CS Market Forum, and it models the redemptions per week of each Armory collection over time. Upon first glance, it's very interesting because you see that Train 2025 collection, it immediately stands out because just look at that sharp increase in redemptions over the last 7 or 8 weeks. So yes, Train is gaining traction, but you're not looking at the full picture if you only look at that graph itself. The graph is a little bit unintuitive, but if you go all the way to the right, you see the last 7-8 weeks of Overpass and Sport and Field. Those have also seen sharp increases in traction, more so than Train. So while Train's uptick looks meaningful in isolation, it might actually be performing worse relative to 9 weeks ago when all three were kind of steadily climbing at the same rate. If anything, that bodes more for Train getting removed, as the other two are still gaining traction even after being in the Armory for a year and a half almost. Now in general, it's kind of counterintuitive because why are redemptions going up right now? I understood it before Season 4 came out, as you know, I guess there could have been a chance something got released, but after that, a lot of the rates stayed pretty much the same. The only one that didn't was Sport and Field, which kind of tapered off a tad bit in the last 2 weeks or so. People should be saving for the next rotation, accumulating stars, but they're not. What I think is happening, specifically with the Sport and Field, because we've seen such a taper off, I think there's a pretty big percentage of that demand coming strictly from anticipatory behavior. They think Sport and Field is going to get discontinued, so they're redeeming in anticipation of its imminent removal. I do not think it's organic demand at this point. The Overpass collection as well, but not to the same degree, which I'll explain in a second. But regardless, this ironically creates the exact supply pressure that they're trying to protect prices from in the first place. More redemptions, more supply, more listings, no buyers, prices go down. So since you're here and you're a smart motherfucker, the correct play is not to redeem with them, it's to just buy their fucking discounted prices right now because they're just flooding the market with shit and prices simply can't keep up, and that's why they've seen stark decreases over the last few weeks or so. Now I imagine Valve understands that there's anticipatory demand here, so I don't think it'll play too much of a part in, screwing over any potential of the ones they want getting discontinued. So my call. I think 2 collections go, and I think they're going to be Train, and I think the other one is going to be Sport and Field. Train 2025 is the highest conviction of the two. It'll be a year when the Armory rotation occurs. At one point, it even dipped below graphic design in terms of performance, and while it's seen an uptick now, so has every other collection, and they've seen a relatively larger increase in redemption. Now, Sport and Field and Overpass is the more interesting debate because those two are pretty much neck and neck, and I think Sport and Field goes for 2 reasons. One is that sharp decrease in redemptions after the Season 4 update. That's telling because it tells us that a lot of that demand was in fact coming from people anticipating it being removed and not actual organic demand for the guns within the case. The Overpass collection stayed on that sharp increase even after Season 4, which shows more demand for the collection right now, and thus will probably survive another 6 months. The second reason, imagine you go to a restaurant and one of them only has 5 dishes and the other one has 20 dishes. After a few times you go there, the ones with 5 dishes, you're gonna get sick of it and bored rather quickly. The one with 20, it's gonna take you a little bit longer time. That's what's going on with the Sport and Field and Overpass collection in the sense of the guns themselves. The Overpass collection has the AKB the Monster, the AWP Krakow, and the Zeus. All of those have large float ranges. The smallest one I believe is the Zeus, and it's like 0 to 0.8 or 0 to 0.9. The Be the Monster is 0 to 0.8, and the AWP is a full 0 to 1. The Sport and Field collection, the two pinks are like 0 to 0.5 and 0 to 0.7, and the M4 Fade is 0 to 0.08. So supply actually like starts to increase and get saturated much more quickly for that collection as opposed to the Overpass collection. So while there might be the same amount of AK Be the Monsters and M4 Fades, there's 50,000 factory new M4 Fades and like not 50,000 AK Be the Monsters in factory new. So you can realistically have the Overpass collection last another 6 months without the supply and saturation of all of them getting absolutely nuked. Is there a case for all three collections going? Yeah, I think so. They asked for 2 collections from the Armory. They could very well add one of their own and replace 3 for 3. In and out, especially if they add a new operation like people are speculating, then I could definitely see them pulling all 3 and putting in 3 new ones. When new types of guns come out and new types of paint styles, Valve usually likes to be the first one to release them, as we saw with the grenade charms. So if they have 2 community made collections and then 1 custom one by Valve, then there'll probably be something in there, and it might be something cool, a new type of paint style we've never seen before. So I do think there's a case for that as well. But we do pretty much guaranteed have 2 new collections skin-wise coming into the Armory, and that's because of their actual call to Armory update that they had a couple months ago, where they asked people from the workshop to create guns. The first collection in which they asked for was Arabesque. I think they deliberately named it Arabesque and not, something as telling as Egyptian, because that would give it away. But I do still think it'll be an Anubis 2026 collection. It could be another collection that someone chatted with me about in the Discord channel, but that's a whole nother video for another day. And it is, of course, more speculative. I think the safer bet would be on Anubis 2026 coming in. The second category they asked for was Spy/Tech. And while I originally thought it was Nuke because we saw Nuke removed and the guns kind of have that Spy/Tech vibe, I don't think it's Nuke anymore. I think there's a very good chance the next collection along Anubis will be Safehouse 2026. Now, hear me out. As we know, Safehouse just got removed, much like Nuke, Inferno, and the Dust 2 collection. Now think about the map itself. It's a safe house. The logo, it's a safe. If I'm not mistaken, when you played it in CSGO, your model was like the actual fucking spy dude. And recently, when they pulled assets from the Genesis terminal, they found out like the coffee mug that's on the table, and I think even the laptop itself, it came from DE_Safehouse. And these are not pulled assets from CSGO, these are brand new assets created for CS2. So since they weren't in CSGO's game files and they're now in CS2's game files, they're deliberately creating it in DE_Safehouse, which at least points to Safehouse coming out in the future. Maybe not for their collection, but we can pretty much confirm Safehouse is coming. So why not a collection to go with it? Kind of lines up with the whole terminal shit too, I guess, with the computer and shit, the arms dealer, Safehouse, Spy/Tech, makes sense. So, final line, minus Sport and Field, minus Train, plus Anubis, plus Safehouse. But let's, expand further into the world of the cases, stickers, and charms. Firstly, we'll do stickers. I do think the obvious first one out is the Sugar Face 2 collection. This one is just not being redeemed enough, simply. Maybe it was only meant to be in for 6 months. I can't see a world in which they don't remove it, to be honest with you. We have the other community set, and while I don't necessarily think it's super popular, I definitely see it staying another 6 months at least. I think they'll give that one a full year, and I think they'll get rid of Elemental. Today's video has been sponsored by the lovely ladies and gentlemen over at skinsmonkey.com. Skinsmonkey is the industry standard trading forum and marketplace for anything and all things Counter-Strike. 24/7 support and an instant trading system so fast, those Bulgarian overpay goblins are sure to go out of business. Now, if that's not enough incentive, throw my code Mike in on the website for $5 off on your first trade. But if you trade up to $100 on the website, they'll double your bonus from 5 to 10. Now, if you don't have any skins, and I just gave you some free game on investment advice, you could deposit money and use the website as a marketplace as well. In that case, my code Mike will net you a 5% deposit bonus, bringing it from 30 to 35%. So go get swagged out, courtesy of skinsmonkey.com. Right, the Armory call also asked for 2 sticker collections. One was like fruit and vegetable, and the other one was like auto racing. Now, we've never seen a themed sticker collection before made by the community. So it kind of lends itself towards crafts, right? If they're themed together, they go together. You would apply them together on a gun to make it look like a theme, right? Auto racing, you'll have wheels and shit. I guess you can make your own car crafts. So I do think these 2 collections lend themselves towards more of a craft collection as opposed to just a community broad stroke, a bunch of different shit. Fruit and veg craft on a Elite Museo, still life craft, it's gonna be sick as fuck. Now, charms are structurally different than every other item in the game because they do have investment potential, but it relies basically pretty much on how long they stay within the armory. We've had these two original ones in the armory since the beginning, which is 18 months at the time of March when the update's supposed to come out. There's going to be a pretty high supply of these things, and you can't really get rid of them like a sticker. Now, they did hedge that by having 100,000 patterns instead of 1,000 like a gun. And there is, of course, rare patterns, which are not going to be as high supply as the entirety of the charm itself from 0 to 100,000. But I think it really depends on how long it stays in the armory. The time decay there is much more strong than it is on a skin because you can't do anything with them. So in that sense, I don't think charm trade-ups are a bad idea for them either. What I think replaces I think small arms are gone and the missing link. I think these two have to go if they have any potential in the future. And I think those two get replaced with one, and it'll be the Dr. Boom community charms. Maybe another one if Valve has a new shape or format they want to introduce to the workshop creators. I think the Fever case is a 50-50. Oh, it's popular, you say. Yeah, no shit, it's fucking popular. It's the only option in the armory, dickhead. When there was two cases in there, it was Gallery and Fever. Gallery was already out. Fever was the new one, so we can't compare it to Gallery realistically. What you need to do, if they do release a case, which obviously we don't know, it's up in the air. If they do release a case in March, it'll be alongside Fever. We'll have those two run, and we'll really see how Fever performs when it's an old case going up against a new case. Then you'll see the redemption numbers that actually make sense, and it'll determine whether or not it gets removed in October. If we do get a case, I think it'll have gloves in it. We haven't had gloves in CS2 yet. I think it'll be a new collection of gloves. Only time will tell there. Lastly, the limited edition item. We know the timeline, it's explicit, so we don't have to speculate there. The question is, do we get a blue next? Do we get a knife next? Who knows? Because it could make sense. Someone commented yesterday on the operation video, and he was like, that he thinks they're making this shit cost a lot of stars because they want people to drain their stars. And while it might look like that on the surface, the Aphrodite is actually priced how it would be expected to. When you open a case, you get a blue 80% of the time. Purples are 5 times as rare. The pinks are 5 times as rare as the purple. The reds are 5 times as rare as the pink, and the gold is 2.5 times more rare than the red. So the pink limited edition items being 25 stars and the red being 125 is 5 to 1, just as the rarity would be in a case. The purple was the only one that didn't make sense because the purple is 3/5 of the price of the pink when it should have been 5 stars. So the blue could either be two things. It could be 5 times as common as the purple and be 3 armory stars, or it could just follow the original pattern and go with 5-star flat rate to purchase. I think they could probably get away with 5 stars, so I think the limited edition blue, if it ever does come out, will be 5 stars cost. If a gold comes out, if it follows the pattern, it'll be 325 stars, roughly. But I could realistically see them just going 2x, have it be 250 stars flat. That'll be a little less jarring for the community to see than 300, but only time will tell there. But if either of those come out, blue or gold, I think it's pretty much confirmed trade-ups will be a thing in the future, especially if these limited edition items keep going and going and going. The limited edition collection is going to be bigger than any other collection in the game because it just continually gets added on one at a time. So don't think a year from now, think 2 years from now, when the limited edition collection has the same amount of blues, purples, pinks, golds as any other case. Then why wouldn't you have trade-ups enabled? Now we do know that Valve likes to release shit on their own before releasing it to the community to play with and make community made submissions of, right? That's what they did with the grenades, that's what they did with the charms, that's what they did with like the holographic guns and the pearlescent guns. So I think Valve will release a collection or two in this armory beyond the community ones they asked for. What they will be, pure speculation, but it could be interesting. I want to make a whole video about this. Embroidered guns, I think that's a no-brainer, just added embroidered stickers, and so far they've made gold, hollow, and foiled guns, so why not embroidered? Also, that liquid effect they have on the grenade charm, the piss grenade, why couldn't that be on a gun either, you know what I mean? All the other stuff, agents, pets, watches, who the fuck knows what else they add, could be cool, shake up the game, give us something a little bit different. If they do actually go ahead and release an operation, then I could see a lot of stuff coming into the game, probably tied into the armory, like a second page or something that you have to pay a special extra price for. Some bullshit they'll get you somehow, but only time will tell there, or like make purchasing decisions based off that, because it hasn't happened yet. We don't have a pattern in place, therefore, you know, it's going to be stupid or high risk to speculate on. So those are my predictions. Hope you liked it. Some are data driven, some are more speculative, some are just based on context clues, but that should give you a decent roadmap of what's going on in my head in regards to the future of the armory. Have a good one.